Welcome to my channel Car Update 2025, and today on Car Update we are stepping back more than 100 years in time to meet a machine that didn't just change roads, but changed the entire world, the legendary 1920 Ford Model T. Imagine waking up in America in the year 1920. The sound of horses still echoes on some streets, roads are mostly unpaved, and owning a car is still considered a luxury for the rich. Now imagine a single vehicle rolling into this world and completely flipping that reality upside down. That vehicle is the Ford Model T, and today we are not just looking at an old car, we are uncovering the story of how this simple-looking machine became the backbone of modern transportation. Stay with me till the end of this video, because the history, engineering, and legacy of the 1920 Ford Model T is far more fascinating than you might expect. The Ford Model T was not just a car, it was a revolution on wheels. When Henry Ford introduced the Model T in 1908, his vision was bold and almost unbelievable for that era. He didn't want to build a car for the elite, he wanted to build a car for the common man. By the time we reached 1920, the Model T had already become a symbol of freedom, independence, and progress across the United States. Farmers, shop owners, factory workers, and families who had never imagined owning a car were now driving one. This was the moment when America truly went mobile. The 1920 Ford Model T carried a design that was simple, honest, and purposeful. At first glance, it might look basic compared to modern cars, but every curve, every bolt, and every mechanical decision had a reason behind it. The tall body, the high ground clearance, and the narrow width were perfect for the rough and uneven roads of early 20th century America. Roads back then were often muddy, dusty, or completely broken, and the Model T was built to survive all of it without complaining. One of the most iconic features of the 1920 Model T was its black paint. There's a famous quote often attributed to Henry Ford: "Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants, so long as it is black." While this statement is sometimes debated, the truth is that black paint dried faster, was cheaper, and allowed Ford to speed up production. Speed was everything. Ford wasn't just building cars, he was building them faster than anyone else in the world. Under the hood of the 1920 Ford Model T lived a 2.9-liter inline four-cylinder engine. By today's standards, the numbers may sound small, producing around 20 horsepower, but in 1920, this was more than enough. This engine was designed to be tough, reliable, and easy to repair. Many owners learned basic mechanical skills just by owning a Model T, because the car was simple enough for the average person to understand. In a way, the Model T didn't just create drivers, it created mechanics too. Starting a 1920 Ford Model T was an experience of its own. There was no push-button start, no keyless entry, and no digital displays. Drivers used a hand crank at the front of the car to start the engine. It required technique, patience, and sometimes a bit of muscle. This process connected the driver directly to the machine, creating a bond that modern cars rarely offer. Every start felt earned. The transmission system of the Model T was unlike anything most drivers today would recognize. Instead of a modern gear shifter, it used a planetary transmission controlled by pedals. There were 3 pedals on the floor, but they didn't work like today's clutch, brake, and accelerator. Learning to drive a Model T was almost like learning a new language. Once mastered, however, it was incredibly effective and durable. Inside the cabin, simplicity ruled. The interior of the 1920 Ford Model T was functional, not luxurious. Wooden elements, basic metal panels, and simple seats defined the experience. There were no speedometers in early versions, no radios, no air conditioning, and certainly no infotainment systems. Yet, for families in 1920, this cabin represented freedom. It meant traveling farther than ever before, visiting relatives, going to town, or simply enjoying a drive through the countryside. One of the most important reasons the Model T became so popular was its affordability. Henry Ford's introduction of the moving assembly line changed manufacturing forever. By breaking down the car building process into simple, repeatable steps, Ford drastically reduced production time and cost. In 1920, a Model T was affordable enough that an average factory worker could realistically dream of owning one. This single idea reshaped global industries, not just the automotive world. The impact of the 1920 Ford Model T went far beyond personal transportation. It influenced city planning, road construction, and even social behavior. As more people owned cars, governments began investing in better roads. Small towns expanded, suburbs were born, and travel became a normal part of everyday life. The Model T didn't just move people, it moved society forward. Farmers especially loved the Model T. It wasn't just a car, it was a tool. With simple modifications, Model Ts were used as tractors, delivery vehicles, and even power generators. This adaptability made the car invaluable in rural America. In many ways, the Model T was the Swiss Army knife of its time. By 1920, millions of Model Ts were already on the road. The car had become so common that it was often affectionately called the Tin Lizzie. Despite its humble nickname, the Model T commanded respect. It proved that technology didn't need to be complicated to be transformative. Sometimes, simplicity is the greatest innovation. Driving a 1920 Ford Model T today is like stepping into a time machine. The steering is heavy, the brakes are basic, and the ride is far from smooth, but that's exactly where its charm lies. Every vibration, every sound, and every movement reminds you that this car comes from a different era, an era when driving was an adventure, not just a routine. Collectors and restorers around the world continue to preserve the Ford Model T, not just because it's old, but because it represents the soul of automotive history. Restoring a 1920 Model T is about respecting its originality, keeping its mechanical honesty intact, and celebrating the era it came from. These cars are often showcased in museums, vintage rallies, and classic car shows, where they continue to attract crowds of all ages. The legacy of the 1920 Ford Model T can still be felt today. Every mass-produced car, every affordable vehicle, and every assembly line owes something to this groundbreaking machine. Without the Model T, the modern automotive industry as we know it might not exist. It laid the foundation for everything that followed. As we reach the end of today's journey on Car Update, remember that the 1920 Ford Model T is more than metal and rubber. It's a symbol of ambition, innovation, and the belief that technology should be accessible to everyone. It tells the story of a world on the brink of change and the machine that helped push it forward. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history, make sure to stay connected with Car Update for more classic car stories, modern automotive insights, and timeless machines that shaped our world. This was the 1920 Ford Model T, a true American vintage icon, and a reminder that sometimes, the simplest ideas are the ones that change everything.